And hello everybody. Yes, finally a new video with apologetics in mind. In the last video I talked about how you should not raise your kids, and hopefully it helped you to be more conscious about the importance of your role as a parent, or maybe even as a youth leader, or just your role as being an example. Now, there is another thing I would like to talk about. I came to realize that one of the biggest weapons of Satan is that of shaming and naming. So, first let me talk a little bit about being an adult. You see, as an adult I have heard my fair share of shaming and naming. And I kind of got used to it. Years ago I was invited by a school to talk about evolution and creation. That was great fun. I recorded it and put it online on YouTube back then. Within a few days my inbox was literally exploding. I received an avalanche of hate mail. And I think if I can recall this correctly, I think I received about 1,700 messages in just a few days. There were those who threatened me, those who cursed me, those who made memes about me, etc. I even appeared in a national program. So, you name it, and I received it. Yes, even death threats. I even received angry messages from fellow Christians. Although I need to be fair, a few messages were encouraging as well. Some Christians said that they would pray for me, for example. I wasn't shocked too much, although I was impressed how fast things can go viral. Overall, I think that adult Christians should be able to shrug their shoulders and look up to the Lord for their confirmation. But I also realize that this can be very hard when one's personality is more leaning towards the emotional side. Mind you, I do not say that you're dumb when you feel uncomfortable with these kind of attacks. But what I do say though is that when one is firmly rooted in Christ, he or she should be able to take some blows. Romans chapter 8 verse 16 and 17. The Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit, that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. If so be that we suffer with him, that we may be also glorified together. But how different is it when you're still a young child or even a teenager? God blessed us with 5 children. My wife and I received 5 children, of which 3 of them are already in their teens. Even though they are pretty secure in their faith, they still struggle when it comes to nasty remarks of peer pressure. Mostly they come to us with their questions or to receive confirmation. And I mean, that's the big bonus when you're able to homeschool your own children, right? They learn early on that they do not have to depend on peers or teachers for their identity. No, they can actually mirror themselves with their parents, in our case with us. Proverbs chapter 1 verse 8 and 9. My son, hear the instruction of thy father, and forsake not the law of thy mother. For they shall be an ornament of grace unto thy head, and chains about thy neck. So, and this is often the opposite when children go to school. There they look at other children of their own age and they wonder, what is this or that kid doing? How do they behave? What do they think? And I think there is no need to explain that these role models aren't really great. I mean, they're a little bit sketchy, right? To say it at least. I mean, how could a child of 13 be a role model of another child? The child itself needs to learn a lot of lessons first before it can function as a good role model for another. Proverbs chapter 2 verse 4 and 5. If thou seekest her, which is wisdom, as silver, and searchest for her as for hid treasures, then shalt thou understand the fear of the Lord and find the knowledge of God. So, but even if a child looks up to a teacher, for example, who is an adult, I assume, it doesn't mean they are safe. Sure enough, there are teachers who are really good in their job. I mean, they really love their job and want to try to get the best out of your child. And there was a time I believed that actually all teachers were like that. I actually thought that those few teachers who pulled me down with their words were the exception. But sadly enough, I have to admit that I have been pretty naive on that issue. So, there are teachers out there who I would call mercenaries. Actually, they are being paid to do their jobs, right? And I know this sounds harsh, but I can't put it in any other way. They seem to care only about how to survive another day with those pesky teenagers. And they seem to find joy in bullying some of them. This kind of people will quickly find out the weak spots of the children in their classes. And when I look back at my school-going years, I can precisely name some of these teachers. I won't do it, but they didn't like the fact that I wasn't really like the rest of the group. I had different ideas. I didn't respond the same as the others did. I didn't give the expected answers. I questioned some ideas. All good ingredients for some old-fashioned shaming and naming. And actually, Jesus already warned about this in Matthew chapter 7, where he says, "Beware of false prophets, which come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly they are ravening wolves. Ye shall know them by their fruits. Do men gather grapes of thorns, or figs of thistles? Even so, every good tree bringeth forth good fruit, but a corrupt tree bringeth forth evil fruit." So I hate to say this, but many Christians seem to be totally oblivious to this text. They seem to think that prophets only walk around in and around religious activities, right? But they forget that a false prophet can easily be disguised as a teacher who mostly want to mold their students into their own worldview. So, shaming can have very negative effects on children. It is almost always very emotional laden. And guess what? Children are easily impressed by emotional statements. We as parents need to be aware of this. And not only the parents, if you're a youth leader or even want to be an example for children, you need to be aware of this. And we need to help our children to arm themselves against this behavior of others. But to prepare your children, you need to know about the thing they are going to hear. And I am going to combine most of the shaming in 3 categories. I know that shaming comes in many forms, but most of them boil down to the same general idea. So let's look at these 3 things our children are likely to encounter. So, number 1. Studies have shown that Christians are more gullible than unbelievers. So there you go. In other words, are you a Christian? Really? You do know that it has been proven that Christians are less intelligent than others, right? And sure enough, I have searched with DuckDuckGo on the phrase "religious people are not smart." I just typed that in, and the very first hit gave me an article named "Why are religious people generally less intelligent?" So many skeptics, atheists and the like know about these studies, and they will gladly use them as ammo for their attacks. However, even though there are studies to be found who indeed claim this statement, there is so much more to say about these kind of studies. I will not go into detail, but let me direct you to the work of a Christian apologist, Mrs. NATASHA CRAIN. Mrs. CRAIN said this: "I have an BE, Marketing and Statistics, and have taught university level market research. So I am a professional number geek. A numbers geek who dug in all these research studies to find out what they really say. Today I want to set the record straight. And so, her research actually demonstrated that of the 63 studies, here we go, 35 showed a significant negative relationship between intelligence and religiousness. The more intelligent a person, the less likely to be religious. Number 2. 2 studies showed a significant positive relationship between intelligence and religiousness. The more intelligent a person, the more likely to be religious. And now the last one, 26 studies showed no significant relationship between intelligence and religiousness. So, before you say, there you go, you see, 35 studies demonstrate the point. I would like to suggest reading the article as a whole. Bottom line is that there is no sensible ground to paint a picture that Christians are less intelligent than atheists. I mean, 28 studies have actually shown that there is not much to say about it. Anyone who wants to make you believe otherwise is just cherry picking the results. So what are we going to do about it? Teach your child about the truths of Christianity. Show your child which worldview depicts reality better. It doesn't matter if the so-called intelligent people believe in a materialistic and naturalistic worldview. Them believing something to be true doesn't automatically make it so. Many unbelievers have to actually go through some very interesting intellectual gymnastics to hold their position. Yes, this requires you as an adult to study the Word of God, to be aware of the things that are going on outside your own house or outside your church building. It requires you to sit down together with the child or your child and maybe read through the article I just gave. Go through history and show them that there were and still are many God-fearing people among scientists. Teach them that the right stuff is not depending on how many intellectuals believe it is right. I mean, many smart scientists believe that abortion is a good alternative. And just because they say it is right doesn't make it right. The same with a worldview. A worldview needs to be sound and it needs to give a precise picture of reality. It doesn't matter how many smart people believe in the Christian worldview. It doesn't really matter. Number 2. You believe it because you have been told to believe it. There you go. You just say this because you are being indoctrinated by your parents. You are probably afraid to say something else than your parents. It is like believing in Santa Claus, right? One day you'll discover that they have been lying to you all this time. You should think for yourself. Try and read some real scientific books. And you'll find out how dumb your position as a Christian is. Anyway, so let's see what the word indoctrination actually means. The Cambridge Dictionary says the following. To often repeat an idea or belief to someone until they accept it without criticism or question. And honestly, I haven't met many Christians who raise their children in a way that questions aren't allowed. Actually, quite the opposite. I have met more Christians who themselves question and criticize Christianity. They often disagree with things about marriage, homosexuality, and the idea that Christ is the only way. All these things, they say, are to be read with the ancient times in mind. So, I mean, a lot of Christian homes are actually doing quite the opposite. They just question Christianity, and that's not the way to go also. So, however, I am sure that there are Christians who teach their children just to swallow whatever the pastor or the father of the house says. No question permitted. In that case, we could say the same about unbelievers, of course. I mean, indoctrination is not the domain of religion. I know atheists who can be really sharp when children say something about religion, or when they say something out of the box. They pride themselves in the idea that they are rational and only following the evidence where it leads, except when that evidence leads to the Bible. To say that a child has been indoctrinated is actually just a hollow phrase. The person who says so cannot know whether this is true or not. To know whether Christians do this, the critic has to investigate this firsthand. And I promise you this, most of them are not willing to really investigate the situation. No, they just like to utter this nonsensical accusation. So what are we going to do about this? How are we going to arm our children against this attack? It's very simple. Just don't indoctrinate them, but teach them about other religions and other ideas as well. And no, I don't say you have to tell them that all others are true, because that would be the equivalent of intellectual suicide. But discussing atheism, Buddhism, Islam and all the others can be very refreshing when you compare them to Christianity. Let your child discover the truths about Christianity. Teach them that their faith should be theirs and not yours. Teach them that, for example, prayer is something personal between them and their Father in heaven. And again, I cannot stretch this far enough. Be an example. Show them your personal walk with Jesus. Be real. Matthew chapter 5 verse 16. Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. Number 3, last point. If you used your brains, you would have agreed that Christianity is dumb. In other words, why do you choose to be so gullible? People who really think critically do not believe in fairy tales like Christianity, right? So you might have heard people say that they are joining the Brights. The Brights movement is a social movement whose members refer to themselves as Brights. And they have a worldview of philosophical naturalism. Their famous incantation can be actually summarized in 2 words: critical thinking. As bright as these people may be, and yes, I do believe there are very intelligent people among them, it seems that they always adopt the idea that if you start thinking critically, you always end up agreeing with their ideas and their conclusions. In other words, if you believe in a supernatural being, you are not thinking clearly. If you logically follow the evidence, they say, you will have to dismiss the existence of God. And sadly, even though they apparently have some good working brains, at least the ones I've seen, they can never be wise in a godly way. Psalm 14, verse 1. The fool has said in his heart, there is no God. Both Christians and atheists mostly refuse to believe without evidence. This actually begs the question of what can be seen as evidence. And again, both the Christian and the atheist and critic will defend their own position, as they both believe they have sufficient evidence. And you see where I'm going with this, right? Nowhere. I mean, these discussions are quite often useless because we all have the same evidence. But the interpretation of the evidence is different. I wouldn't spend my time discussing who is the real critical thinker. Both parties have people who are not really using their brains, and both parties have very knowledgeable people on board as well. So what are we going to do? Help your child to see through this smokescreen of the argument. Unravel the argument. Show them that the idea has some strange assumptions. Let's do that. A critical thinker, assumption number 1, a critical thinker forms his or her beliefs on the foundation of evidence. Premise number 2, God cannot be proven, there is no evidence for his existence. And then the final premise, if you believe in the existence of God, you're clearly not thinking critically. So if you strip these kinds of attacks from their facade, you'll quickly find out that they are mostly based on presuppositions that are nothing more than that, assumptions. In this case, the assumption seems to be that Christians believe even though they have no evidence whatsoever. The next step you could do should be discussing how different words are being used by different people. For example, and this is an example I like to bring up. When I tell you I am gay, you might assume that I just admitted to be a homosexual. However, I actually just wanted to say that I'm very happy. I mean, happy as can be, because that was the original meaning of the word, and actually it still has that meaning. So when somebody talks about evidence, what does this person actually mean? Is evidence pure naturalistic? Is it something you need to be able to touch, to smell, to see, or to hear? Or can it also be indirect evidence, like the wonderful creation around us? We need to tear down their arguments. Let me read to you from 2 Corinthians chapter 10 verse 4 and 5, and I will read this from the Amplified Version. The weapons of our warfare are not physical, weapons of flesh and blood. Our weapons are divinely powerful for the destruction of fortresses. We are destroying sophisticated arguments in every exalted and proud thing that sets itself up against the true knowledge of God. And we are taking every thought and purpose captive to the obedience of Christ. It will be helpful to teach your child about logical fallacies. We have read the book called Fallacy Detective. It was great fun to go through all these fallacies and to trigger the children to think hard about the examples. I will place a link to the Fallacy Detective website in the description of this video. And underneath my here as well. There you go. And finally, do I really need to say it again? Yes, I believe I do. Teach your child the nitty-gritty of Christianity. Make it a fun thing too. Don't just read a bit of the Bible and leave the rest to the youth pastor. No, read a bit and discuss it. Try to find some extra information about the part you have just read. And don't avoid the difficult parts. Tackle them head on. And do shy away from not admitting that you have trouble to understand certain things as well. I mean, some people think, oh, I cannot admit this because I need to know everything. No, you don't know everything. I mean, children are just fine with that, right? And of course, that means that you will have to do some homework yourself as well. But isn't that worthwhile? You are in the unique position, in a unique situation that you can help your child or a child on his or her way to the Father in heaven. Don't take that responsibility too lightly. So, these were my main 3 points. I wanted to discuss this with you because I think it's really important. Please don't hesitate to mention more of these shaming tactics in the comment section below. Let me quote myself from my last video. So, in the end, we all want to raise our children to become strong followers of Christ. You did not receive children to see them do well in the world, but become lost for eternity, right? I mean, my wife once said that she wasn't planning on raising our children to become ready for hell. Kent Hovind, I think it was Kent Hovind, used to make a joke, and I think it was in his very first seminar, even before 1998, where he said, everybody is good for something. Even the worst of you could serve as bad examples, if nothing else. And although he was joking, it seems that many do not understand the implication of really being a bad example. Don't fall in that trap of thinking too lightly about the importance of raising your children. Show them both how to live and how to think as Christians. So again, let me know your thoughts in the comment section of the video or on my website in the comments. And remember, I'm mostly active on my Odyssey channel, and you'll find a link to that channel in the description. I very much appreciate your prayers and your support. Please take a look in the description again to find out how you can help me. And also I'll place a link there to both the Dutch and English transcripts of this video. So, as always, God bless you. Thank you for watching, and we see each other in the next video. Thank you for watching this video. You can give me a thumbs up if you liked it. You can also subscribe to my channel, or even better, follow me on Odyssey. That way you will never miss a new video. You will find all the links in the description below.